Good evening, dear listeners, dear readers, dear lovers, dear friends, everyone. I thought that I might make a talking video, just to, I don't know, clear a few things or just say a few things and hear myself talk, which of course I'm always good at. Right? We get right in there. You've been, see, I'm putting some bass lines up onto this particular YouTube page. I do have another YouTube page, which is Rancid TV, spelled with an X. That's me, Rancid, Ranxid. You can Google that. That's what I usually tell most people. I played music for many years. I don't profess to be great in any way. I don't profess to be a master of any instrument in any way whatsoever. I've written a lot of songs. I've written a lot of, songs and a lot of original music, and played in a lot of different bands over, a good course of 30 some odd years, 30, even more, maybe 35, 36 years, And, when I first started out, we were a metal cover band, so we played a lot of covers, so, we memorized so many songs, Metallica songs, Megadeth songs, Iron Maiden songs, we would all vote, you know what I mean? We'd get together and say, like, here, these are my three songs, let's learn these, or everybody would vote, you know what I mean? So everybody got to say, you know what I mean? And we had fun, it was a good band, our name was Rapture, and we were local. But I played so many different places in Maryland and Pennsylvania and D.C. and other places too. So we got around in our little tri-state type of area. You know what I mean? We had an adventure, you know what I mean? We picked up our guitars and went. I mean, me and my brother, when we first started playing together, my brother is such a but more phenomenally brilliant guitar player than I am. So he's so good. It's just beyond speech, it's beyond words. And we first started out. We had moved away to. North Carolina after our father had left and everything, and they moved there first, and I ended up 13 years old with the upstairs apartment for a while, and that didn't work out too good. It was not a good idea to give a 13-year-old me his own apartment. I put that bitch to good use. So much so that they shipped me off to North Carolina, so I got shipped off. But anyway, we go down there like that. So and like me and my brother, always when we were growing up and my father was around, in a music room, so there was always a piano to tinkle with, or drums to play with, or maracas laying around, or a xylophone sitting in the corner, or I mean, just always such fascinating things, and me and my brother were always in there. I mean, there's the toy box, fuck that, we're in there, you know what I mean? So we had that, and I think that we absorbed a lot of that. You know what I mean? We weren't there for many, many practices, but we were there for enough of them, and then we got to play around in our own way, in that way as well. And so visiting my dad at that time was cool because we would get to go over there and be with him and be in his music room, and he would just kind of let us just go and play havoc in his music room. And at the time, he was a good dad, man, and I really looked up to him, and I was in love with him and everything else, you know what I mean? And not that he became a bad dad, although, in reality, no, he actually did become a bad dad. You know what I mean? But my father, left, and he had a sex change, and he's a famous jazz pianist, and there's that. And then, what, I don't even want to drop the name, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's certainly not something I want to ride on the coattails of anybody else anyway. I don't, it doesn't matter. The transgender thing doesn't matter to me. I'm not a person who's against that or anything else. I'm very pro pretty much everything that you might want to try to imagine. I'm probably pro it. So, you know what I mean. Let's not talk about politics. I've been talking about that too much lately, as it were. Anyway, this is about me actually trying to get back into my music, you know what I mean? Well, now, back to the story. When we started out, we were a metal cover band, and we memorized Metallica songs, we memorized Megadeth songs, Anthrax, all these bands at the time that were good. Grunge was getting popular at the time too, so it was kind of like we were doing metal, but we were also doing Nirvana covers, and we had Soundgarden songs, and I was good at doing Eddie Vedder, because if you listen to my voice right now, you can tell I sing at a lower tenor. So, you know what I mean? And guys would show up, want to say, like, hey, let's do these songs, and put out 3 songs, and one of them's an Iron Maiden song. It's like, okay, let's see if I can do that, I'm like, the breath of the reaper. Like, guys, I don't think I can do that. You know what I mean? And so I, whatever, find my own way to make a scream or whatever, and do the songs of theirs that I could. You know what I mean? But the ones that I couldn't do, maybe we abandoned songs. So who knows? It was my singing ability. They were free to hire another singer if they wanted to, right? Me and my brother were kind of a crew. You know what I mean? Like I say, we began playing together on 2 acoustic guitars. He had moved away to North Carolina, and he played lead parts, and I played rhythm parts, and we made up songs. And that's how we got started. And then, once we got the money to get together, man, we bought some electric guitars, and we bought our grandfather got us a keyboard, he got us a Casio keyboard, and we were in love with it anyway. And a 2-track, two reel to reel, a 2-track recorder, and, and that's how we started recording. So we learned about recording and effects and all these different things early on in our career, like that, even though it wasn't a career at the time. I was still in high school, doing bong hits before I got on the bus in the morning. And, so, we developed a style between us that was, I don't even, I've never been able to even classify it as a genre, other than just, a soulful exploration of music. You know what I mean? We fell in love with keyboards at that time, but then, like I say, later on, we morphed into a metal band because we moved back to Baltimore. And there was our old drummer, our drummer that we used to play with, around with, and he was a heavy drummer, great drummer, great drummer. We all had nicknames. Everybody had a nickname, and so, you know what I mean. You know, my mine was Rancid, and it's been stuck with me ever since. So if anybody was wondering about that tag or that thing or that name or whatever, it's been around for a while. It was here before that wonderful band was, and like, I don't have anything, against those guys. Those guys are great, I didn't try to take off anything of them. I had the name Rancid with an X, long before they actually came out. I was Rancid for a long time, you know. It's like people like, how would you get that name? Well, let me, well, I can elaborate, but it'll become long, and I'll fill my phone up, which I don't want to do that again, right now. I was a raging alcoholic, and I was a violent alcoholic, and that went along with the kind of band and the genre that we were emulating at the time. You know what I mean? We were famous for going somewhere and all of us getting so shit-faced drunk that, things got destroyed. People got, not one show went by when there wasn't a fight, you know what I mean? So, I mean, there were so many bands out there that were worse than we were, but at the time, it was that. And me having all the, pent-up shit from our childhood and everything else, I had a lot to... I had a lot of mania going on. I was a raging dick, And but of course, lead singers usually are, right? You know what I mean? So I kind of was fitting the bill pretty good, and it seemed to kind of be a draw. You know what I mean? People wanted to come to see what was really going to happen. So that's how we got started and into that genre and learning covers. And for me, I was always devoted to art and music as more of an art form, and not so much as, I don't know, man, note for note perfection. You know, I'm not. I'm not. I mean, it's great. There's bands you go out, they're cover bands, man. They play the songs note for note, and it's like incredible and everything else, and they show how good they are, and they're demonstrating, that they can learn someone else's stuff. So if you can't do that, man, you're just not a real musician. You know what I mean? Well, man, it's like I don't read notes. I don't read tablature. You know what I mean? I'll listen to it through. Yeah, and you know what? I'm probably going to embellish it and find my own way through it. And I would expect, like, if it was my song, that I wouldn't care if somebody learnt my shit note for note. I'm not that much of an egomaniac. You know what I mean? That I need to, have the feeling, oh, these motherfuckers are learning my shit note to note. Nah, it's just not something to where I'm at. I was always more devoted to doing original music. And we were in a metal band and we were having our adventures, and I could go through and tell you all of our adventures, but hey, let's save that for another video because it's all lurid and crazy, and boy, do I have stories. I usually don't talk about, but yeah. Anyway, I was developing a more interest in the electronic music at the time. It was the 90s. Nine Inch Nails had come out. There was a more acceptance of electronic music, and the bands that I always loved to listen to and had been listening to since I was in high school were Depeche Mode and The Art of Noise, and yeah, gosh, and I was listening to The Simple Minds, and and I was listening to all this other stuff, and then being in a metal band, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a conflict of interest, you know what I mean? And because the things that I'm feeling artistic about, you know what I mean, I'm not getting a chance to emulate them in any way on stage at all. Except that, of course, I would take these metal songs that we would learn, and I would be like crooning over Metallica, like the Breakfast Club or something, and like it said weird things. And people would say things to us too. They'd be like, your covers don't match your originals, because we always wanted to have originals. Something that I always would say, I'm not playing in a band if we have no originals. What the fuck is the point, right? What's the point, right? So I'm at least playing one original song. So what we did, we play our sets of songs. You play a set of songs. What do you play? 7, 8 songs, 10 songs if you're doing a nice long set. And you stick a cover in here, And so maybe you get in three covers a night or something. I'm sorry, 3 originals a night, with all the covers. You know what I mean? And then, so that you're presenting your own music in there as well, So, but then, of course, all these other metal hits, but then the songs that I write were not in those veins, because that's where not my artistic sensibilities, they did not reside in that direction. You know what I mean? I was playing with those guys because I wanted to play, man, and the attention I was getting. I was an attention whore. I was a raging alcoholic. I was an attention whore. Being the center stage, they didn't care. What the hell, I was singing shit then. I was making up my own lyrics. And then we hired another guitar player who was like even more psycho than most of us, and he was good. His little trademark was whipping out his butterfly switch knife and playing his guitar. You know what I mean with that? You know what I mean? And it was like really bad for his strings. I told him many times, but he had to do his thing. So what are you gonna do? Let him do it. Why? Because it's art. right? So, you know what I mean? So many places where we went, we destroyed shit, we destroyed everything, we destroyed the place, we got in fights, you know. You never knew what was going to happen. You know what I mean? So, but you know, that was kind of a lurid environment that lured people in. You know? So we had our, you know, running like that. You know what I mean? And you know, it went that way. And but the more that I got into electronic music, it eventually was the end of that band. You know, it kind of broke up into its separate ways, and I had become more interested in doing electronic music. So I was learning to play with drum machines, and I was learning to use the computer and the early recording programs, early sequencing programs that they had. My earliest sequencing programs was on Windows 95, and no, you know, so you know, and of course, to the metalheads that I had been playing with, it was like what I was playing to them was like Tinker Toy music or something, you know, the things that they would say that it sounded like or whatever it was. I know when you listen to my new music now, you've got to, you know, you probably can hear the same type of, hear it the same type of way. You know what I mean? I like to work with samples. I like to work with electronic music. You can do so much with it. You know what I mean? Take samples, slow them down, change them. You can alter so many things, and you can, you know, put your artistic, you know, stamp onto it. You know what I mean? In ways that, you know, I could never had done before. You know, and, you know, I did eventually, you know, people did leave the band with me and come with me, the really weird guitar player. And I shouldn't say he's weird. That's bad. I mean, and he was just he's different, you know. You know, and I was worse than him, you know. You know, one time Bobby told me, he said that, you know, he thought that he'd never find anybody that it was as psychotic as him until he met me. And then, you know, that was the story as that went. You know what I mean? But and then so we drifted off into a different type of music, and we kind of were doing an industrial thing, you know. So we uh, we did have a drummer, but he played on a rolling pad and he played on electronic drums, and and plus we had other, you know, other tracks of drums going, and weren't afraid to use tracks and backing tracks, and you know, basically the bands that my metalheads love to hate, showing up with all of our computer equipment and racks and keyboards, and you know what I mean. And I you know, I enjoyed that atmosphere as well, because I learned that instead of having to stand there and scream like an idiot, right? That I could actually sing over these songs and actually write songs for real, you know what I mean? And write songs for real and actually do the things that I had always wanted to do. And eventually, you know, ended up alone doing it by myself for a good turn of years, and did it by myself for a while. And I uploaded all them there, you know, things there too. They're on my SoundClick page. But like I said, if you Google Rancid with an X, you find me. I'm everywhere. Yeah. So there it is. You know what I mean? And I always give free downloads because I am actually your anti-capitalist nightmare. Okay. And we can just leave that at that. We don't have to do a whole bunch of political crap, you know, whatever. I don't feel like that right now, talking about music, but, you know, it is what it is. But anyway, you Google that, you find those things. You know what I mean? There's what music I was able to actually save. You know, the older music, some of the older music, I still have some of those recordings. My brother still has more of them still. You know what I mean? So eventually, who knows? Maybe we'll get to hear them or not. Somewhere there exists some video of me, you know, early on. So I'm very interested to see that. So the one drummer says he has that. So I'm gonna go definitely check that out, and I want to see that video. I have a really good offer to play with some guys that are a completely different genre than I've ever been used to playing, because my father, of course, made me hate jazz. Um, yeah, no, I don't even want to go into explaining all that goes into that. But let me just suffice it to say that my father and his obsessive devotion to jazz and his conviction that no other music was viable uh, made me hate jazz, and I hated it. But this one gentleman who played with my father, he's actually made me love jazz again, and I like to listen to him and his bands and his incarnations, and I love the work that they do, and it's they've offered to let me come on over and play around. So I'm looking really forward to doing that. So I'm playing around with my bass, trying to expand and mess around. And I'm not the best. I got neuropathy. I had 3-stage cancer. I had an aortic dissection. Sometimes I can't feel my fingers at all. And those are the days that you're not going to see me online playing. So it is always a fact of how good I feel that I can pick my guitar up. I suffer about a chronic pain from cancer and the aortic dissection that I had in 2017. So I have serious health problems. It's not like tomorrow I'm going to become the new YouTube sensation and, travel around the world and make any money, or I'm not even going to be able to play a gig at the corner bar. It's not happening, you know what I mean? I could take a stool and sit down, man, but I ain't going to fucking last there, not very long at all. That's for true. You know what I mean? But, that's what getting old is all about, facing mortality and everything else. And I've spoken extensively about that in my writings as well. So, and none of that's hard to find. It's all there, you know. So, that is my body of electronic work that still grows today because I'm still planning on expanding it and doing these songs myself, as well as instead of being the center of attention, because look at me, I'm old, I walk with a cane, my days of jumping around on stage and screaming at the top of my lungs, and those days are way gone and long over. And so, it's not something that I'm online trying to promote myself in such a way. My entire catalog is free. And, the reason that it's free is pretty self-apparent once you do get into reading about the kind of person that I am and how I feel about politics and how I feel about corporations. And that started with music corporations. It's very hard to break into the industry, and it's possible to be blackballed too, because of certain things or whatever, and then you've got the choice of that if you really do want to make it, right? What, you got to uproot yourself jumping on a goddamn Chevy van? I mean, this was back in the fucking day, all right? You know what I mean? And, jump in a Chevy van and drive around the United States and hope people know your name. And if you knew anything about us, man, it was like going to be like, that would have been like the road trip from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? So, I was kind of guilty in a way of kind of holding the guys back because, like, they could have went and did that. And maybe they would have made farther than we ever did, because a lot of people would basically say that we made it nowhere. Of course, I look at it differently because I look at it in an artistic sense. I look at that all the guys that we played with, that we absorbed something from every one of them, and we still create art. And when I sit down and I make art, if I paint a painting or I draw a picture or I make a song, that they're all just as valuable as each other, or they're just as valuable as anybody else's art. Remember, we could talk about throwing tomatoes at the canvas and calling it art. Me and my wife argue about the tin cans in Andy Warhol in the museum, and what is art and what is not. She doesn't like French Impressionism. So, well, we have heated discussions in the museum. Sometimes the security guard gives us strange looks, but, we just act like we're experts arguing over Impressionism or Cubism or whatever. And, But that just takes me back to this saying of, like there's that line of art. It's all subjective, man. It's all subjective. Art's supposed to make you feel something. I think there's certain people that understand real art, and I think there's certain people that are just fucking art snobs. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm partial to being Baltimore, so I'm going to bring up John Waters, right? You know what I mean? He's a guy who can appreciate the absurdity of art and appreciate art that other people will say that's not art. You know what I mean? You get into these things, the difference between art and, pornography. What's different? What's the difference between art and pornography? You know what I mean? Please don't thump your Bibles at me. And, it's, but that's the way that I've always approached music, painting, drawing, because I've done them all. And, and in my illness, I lost so much. I lost so much. I used to be a truck driver, deliverer. I worked through DC. I met a lot of great people, and I had a really, and I had a good time in my job. I really loved my job. You don't hear many people say that, you know what I mean, and also propose to be, the anti-capitalist nightmare of the world. But when you're a slave, you drive the garbage truck, and I guess I just made an allusion to, an anime somewhere. But, when you're a slave, you drive that delivery truck and you take that down there and you put the furniture together and you do those things and you ignore the fact that you're walking through the House of Representatives where I had a gun pulled on me once. I've been in every building in D.C. I've been into the White House. I've been into the Capitol building. I've been in I've been in everywhere. And I enjoyed my job. You know what I mean? But when illness took me, and it robbed me of so much. Because even at that time I was still making music. I don't know if anybody who may have been or not following me or not from that time, And I know this is a new kind of page right here because I have this new phone and it's signed in a certain way, so it had to make its own new YouTube page. So the Rancid TV page is kind of, took a rest. I used to collect the TV shows there, so there's TV shows and stuff like that. But if you go there and look in the music, you see the Rancid section. That's my name. It's not like I'm putting myself out there with big neon lights. It's like I'm saying I'm not really looking for a lot of adulation. I just actually want to express my art, and I would be interested to have other people who might have the same caliber of thinking that I do to see my art and to either, experience it, critique it, tear it apart, call it names. You know what I mean? I was told the other day I can't play a lick by some Brit. Right? So, and who knows, maybe he's right, maybe I can't, you know what I mean? But, you know what? I love my bass, and it's just been wonderful to pick it back up and to be able to play again. And so it's also wonderful to share that as well, to put it up there and to watch myself playing, you know what I mean? And to instead of focusing on writing dense lyrics to songs, and as opposed to being a front man or being like the center of attention or being the being the focus. You know what I mean? I'm becoming interested in the bass. I started to play the bass out of necessity. I started out in the cover band playing the rhythm guitar. You can do the rhythm guitar and sing a lot easier than you can play the bass and sing. So that's that reason. What happened was our bass player, he had enough of us, so he quit, and I took up the bass out of necessity, and yeah. So, but I never gave the bass the real attention that I should have given it. All I did was hold up my end coming through singing at the same time, simplifying everything so I could sing. And my brother being such a phenomenal guitar player, it kind of never, uh, forced me to become the player that I should have became, right? So it's more in my focus right now to focus on playing the bass and to try to just kind of, learn that. Of course, I still want to put songs together and write them. I love to do instrumentals, you know what I mean? I find that I'm almost, done sung out. It's kind of like the drawing thing, you know what I mean? Something inside me was crazy and it was trying to get out, and I kind of drew it all out, you know what I mean? It's kind of weird, But, that's the way I view art. It's a cathartic thing. My wife and me had this thing. I draw a picture, man. I throw it away, and she grabs it and saves it, And like me, it's like once it's out of me, I'm done with it. It's like the recording of a song, you know what I mean? I record the song, I get it all finished. I pop it online. I press play. There it is. Collect some likes. You know what I mean? I'm done with the song. I do not return to it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know. I'm more interested in my art and what it does for me and myself and my mental health in a cathartic way than I am concerned about its preservation or its somehow commercialization or whatever. Not that my art is even good enough to even be considered, commercialized. So, but like on that note too, it's kind of like I just wanted to go through to say, I have been taking some songs and playing them along with them, like tonight's version of the Sisters of Mercy. You know what I mean? It's not something that's going to show my ability, and it's like I'm not here to like impress you with my my finger skills and my chops, man. I'm not here to impress you with my bass chops. I'm here to just like commune with my bass, man, and commune with the universe, and I'm alone, and so I don't have too many people to play with, man. So I can't convince my brother to come down and play with me, so and the other guys, they want me to jam with them too, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, man. It's like I just don't want to do rock covers no more, man. And it's not like or turning away or anything like that, man. If them guys show up tomorrow and want me to jam with them, I'm gonna walk over there and jam with them, cause what the hell else? Ain't nobody else knocking down my door to want to jam with me, right? So anybody comes through the door, I'll jam with them, But I'm really interested more. I want to play with the jazz. I want to try jazz, and so who knows? I'll probably do both efforts. You know what I mean? And hopefully something will end up recorded, and it'll be something that we can both critique and enjoy together on our myriad website platforms that I create. Um, you know. So. So, like, you're going to hear me playing along with these songs, and you're not going to hear me trying to play it note for note. You're going to hear me maybe embellish it, man. You're going to hear me feeling my way through it, right? And to me, right, like, that's more enjoyable to me, right? Because then I get to listen to the song, and I get to actually